Hi everyone, my name is Melissa Shenk, and I'm looking forward to sharing my research proposal, Participation and Belonging in Public Library Programming for Older Adults. Today, I will present a proposal for a qualitative case study exploring how older adults describe participation in digital and life skills programming within a public library setting. This study focuses less on attendance and numbers and more on how participation feels from the inside. Senior isolation continues to be recognized as a significant public health concern. Research connects it to declining physical and mental health, yet isolation is not simply about being alone, and being alone is not the same as feeling disconnected. A person may live independently and still feel supported, while another may be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. The difference lies in whether relationships feel meaningful. Public libraries often serve as community anchors, particularly for older adults who are aging in place. They provide routine, familiarity, and informal social contact. However, participation does not automatically follow access. Libraries offer programs, devices, and instruction, but availability alone does not guarantee engagement. Attendance numbers show usage, but they do not tell us whether someone felt confident, comfortable, or connected. That distinction between access and lived experience is what makes the study important. Public libraries have expanded digital literacy and life skills programming in response to growing community needs. These programs are widely available, and in many cases, equipment and internet access have improved significantly. However, participation among older adults remains inconsistent. The presence of programs does not necessarily translate into engagement. While access is important, research suggests that internal barriers such as anxiety, fear of making mistakes, or uncertainty about relevance may have a stronger influence on participation decisions than physical access alone. Instructional pace and technical language can also unintentionally discourage involvement. When a program feels overwhelming or overly complex, hesitation may occur before learning even begins. Additionally, gaps in librarian training related specifically to senior-focused digital and life skills instructions may limit how effectively programs address these emotional and motivational barriers. As a result, programs may exist and be well designed, but engagement does not always follow. This section brings the research together into three connected ideas rather than isolated findings. First, the research consistently emphasizes that participation is relational. Whole person librarianship and the person in environment framework remind us that older adults do not walk into the library as learners only. They arrive with personal histories, confidence levels, anxieties, and lived experiences. When staff build familiarity over time, the library becomes more than a service point, it becomes a trusted space. Second, hesitation often happens before learning even begins. The research shows that anxiety about making mistakes, fear of breaking equipment, or confusion about terminology can discourage participation more than the lack of access. Instructional pacing and tone matter. When language feels technical or rushed, it can unintentionally signal that someone does not belong in that space. Third, confidence grows through hands-on relevant experiences. Learning appears strongest when activities connect to daily life, whether that is digital literacy, financial skills, or other life skill programming. Exploratory environments where mistakes are expected and supported tend to build both competence and comfort. Taken together, this research suggests that connection, emotional readiness, and practical relevance are not separate factors. They interact, and when relationships are strong and instruction feels supported, participation increases, and that participation may reduce isolation over time. Much of the existing research measures participation through numbers such as attendance, program completion, or device usage. These metrics are valuable because they do show reach and activity. They tell us who showed up and what was completed. However, numbers do not explain experience. They do not tell us whether someone felt confident, hesitant, supported, or out of place. Digital confidence and social connection are often examined separately and frequently measured through observable outcomes. What remains less understood is how older adults interpret their participation in their own words. Why does one person return while another does not? What makes a program feel meaningful enough to continue? This study moves from outcomes to experience. It shifts the focus from what can be counted to and what can be described. This qualitative case study explores how adults age 60 and older describe their participation in digital and life skills programming within a public library. The focus is not on measuring outcomes, but on understanding how participants interpret their experience. The central research question asks how older adults describe participation in their own words. Sub Sub-questions examine what influences their decision to continue or discontinue, how they describe changes in comfort or confidence, and how participation connects to feelings of belonging. By centering participant description, this study shifts attention from observable outcomes to lived experiences. This study is guided by two complementary frameworks, the person and environment perspective and whole person librarianship. The person and environment perspective explains that participation is shaped by the interaction between individuals and their broader social and physical environments. People do not engage in isolation. Their experiences are influenced by relationships, setting, instructional tone, and community context. Engagement is therefore not determined solely by access or motivation, but by how people experience the environment around them. Whole person librarianship builds on this idea by emphasizing relationship centered service rather than purely transactional interactions. It recognizes that familiarity, dignity, and repeated contact shape how patrons experience the library over time. Together, these frameworks support examining participation as a lived relational experience rather than simply a measurable outcome. This diagram represents the structure of the study. At the center is a qualitative case study design chosen because the goal is to understand lived experience within a single public library system rather than measure broad trends. Since this study asks how older adults describe participation and belonging, a qualitative approach allows participants to explain their experiences in their own words. The study focuses on one public library setting to allow for an in-depth exploration within a consistent environment. Participants include adults ages 60 and older who have attended digital literacy or life skills programming, including both those who continue to attend and those who chose not to return. A small number of staff members will also provide contextual insight. Data will be collected through semi-structured interviews and participant observation. These methods allow participants to reflect on their experiences while also capturing how the program environment shapes participation. Analysis will occur through thematic coding. Rather than imposing fixed categories, thematic coding allows recurring patterns to emerge from participants' descriptions. This approach aligns with the person and environment framework because it focuses on how individuals describe the interaction between themselves and their environment over time. The goal is not simply to count participation, but to understand how confidence, hesitation, and belonging develop within the library system. What are the implications for library practices? These findings suggest that library practice may need to shift slightly in focus. Access alone is not enough. A library can provide devices, classes, and resources, but participation depends on whether individuals feel like they belong in those spaces. Moving beyond access toward belonging requires intentional design. That includes strengthening librarian training and senior focused instruction. Many librarians are confident serving children and work age adults, yet fewer receive preparation in pacing instruction for older learners or addressing technology related anxiety. Instructional pacing matters. When sessions move too quickly or rely on technical language, participants may withdraw quietly rather than ask for clarification. Slowing down, allowing repetition, and normalizing mistakes can change the tone of the entire experience. Physical and social space design also plays a role. Spaces that feel conversational rather than evaluative encourage participation. Seating arrangements, lighting, group size, and the tone all communicate whether someone is expected to perform or simply to learn. Finally, success should be measured by long-term engagement rather than a single session attendance. Returning participants often signal comfort and connection. Sustainable participation reflects trust, and trust develops over time. Participation in public library programming cannot be understood solely through attendance numbers or measurable outcomes. Engagement develops through context, relationships, instructional tone, and environmental design. By listening to how older adults describe their experiences, libraries may better understand what supports confidence, reduces hesitation, and fosters belonging. Reframing participation as lived experience allows libraries to move beyond access and toward inclusive relational practices. My references are listed below and all were found through LSU's library. Thank you so much for watching and thanks for a great Spring 1 semester.